Hi, this is Kaushik, Ranchod here, and today what we're going to talk about is the latest immigration bans and how that could affect you. There's two recent proclamations that are going to be put out by the Trump administration, and what I'm going to talk about in this video is both of those proclamations, how they could affect you if you're on a non-immigrant visa or an immigrant visa. So you want to stay tuned to learn all of the nitty-gritty details, and we're going to talk about both of those in this video. So let's start off with the most recent proclamation. The most recent proclamation came out on June 22nd. This was targeted to hit employment-based visas. So we're talking about H-1Bs, we're talking about Js, certain types of J visas, L1s, H-2Bs. So it affects you if you're outside the United States and want to apply for a visa stamp, then it could affect you. If you're in the United States, you've already obtained a visa, or if you're already in lawful status in the United States, you can continue to stay in the United States. So it doesn't affect you continuing to reside in the United States, assuming that you have lawful authorization that your H-1B was approved in the United States. So for instance, if you've applied for an H-1B extension and that was approved, you would be able to continue to stay in the United States if you're in the US. What's important to note is that there are some exceptions to this. So if you're doing something in the national interest, such as if you're a healthcare worker, if you're a physician, for instance, you could qualify for this national interest exception. Now, where do you apply for this national interest exception? So you apply at the embassy. You want to look at the embassy website for their specific instructions. The consular officer is going to be making a determination as to whether or not you qualify for this national interest exception. Now, it also could be something to where you are helping with relieving the COVID efforts. So if you're helping doing something in the national interest in that effect, then I would recommend that you also apply for that national interest exception. This recent proclamation with the employment-based immigration visas piggybacked on the original proclamation that came out April of 2020. That proclamation was unfortunately targeting immigrants, but only certain types of immigrants. So it's really important. I want you to be informed here because there's a lot of hype. There's, a lot of fear out there. So let's get to the facts. Let's get to what's really out there. Who does it affect? Well, first of all, let's talk about who it doesn't affect. It doesn't affect spouses. It doesn't affect children under the age of 21. It doesn't affect you if you're a lawful permanent resident. It doesn't affect you if you're EB-5 investor. So it also doesn't affect certain types of special immigrants. So when you look at who it does affect parents, US citizens. In that situation, if you're a parent, you want to bring your parent over who is a US citizen, then you can still apply for an I-130. So it doesn't prevent you from applying for an I-130. This proclamation goes into effect until December 31st, 2020. So by the time your I-130 is approved, if the law stays the way it is, the proclamation could no longer be in effect. So that's something important to note. So there are also some other immigrant visa categories that are affected, but it's really important to look at the exceptions. If you look at the exceptions, most of the immigrant visa categories are not affected. Specifically, a lot of people were worried if they could bring their spouse over or their children over, and those are two main categories that are not affected. If you have questions about that, I invite you to contact us at 916-613-3553. We're here to help. Also, if you're finding this video helpful, please smash that like button. It helps with that YouTube algorithm, but let's continue here to the more important stuff. So if you're not listed in one of the exceptions, then you could be affected by this proclamation that I listed in the immigrant visa. But if you want clarification for that, we're here to help. What's also really important to notice is that the American Immigration Lawyers Association is taking action. Lawsuits been filed. If an injunction goes into effect, then this will stop this proclamation from being in effect. So it's called an injunction. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen. Stay tuned make sure you subscribe so we can keep you informed of what is happening, because we want to keep you informed. But that's something that also could affect it. It's also important to note that if you're an individual who's furthering important U.S. law enforcement efforts, that is also an exception. If you're outside of the United States, you didn't have a valid immigrant visa on the date the proclamation went into effect, and you're not listed in one of those exceptions, then this could affect you. Now, it's also important to note that, as I mentioned earlier, I don't want you to be worried if you're in the United States and are on a work visa and you have authorization to stay in the United States, then that's not going to affect you. And it's really important to try to, if you're outside the United States, see if you qualify for one of these national interest exceptions. If anything that's related to COVID, if anything related to the medical field where you're going to be helping the United States, also with the armed forces. Also, if you are in the armed forces, you could find yourself having an exception. You have to apply at your closest post, and the decision's going to be made at the time of the interview. And every embassy may have different instructions, so follow those instructions on the website. I hope you found this video useful. I'm hoping that their lawsuits will be successful, but if not, stay tuned so we can continue to give you updates. And thank you, and have an amazing day, and we will see you until next time. Bye for now.